Jon. Kind of funny how that works. Looking forward to being with you today for the next 2 hours. I'll be introducing my guest here momentarily, my first hour guest. But first, let's do the show. Let's do the show mantra and the show prayer, as it were. And it's just the prayer of my heart when it comes to doing the show. No need to bow your head or close your eyes. I hope my show is a gift back to my founding. Excuse me, I'm going to start all over again. I hope my show is a gift back to my forefathers, the founding fathers, and may it be an acceptable token to the Father, our Father above. Wow, I don't think I got good sleep last night. That must have been what was going on, because I'm just all over the place with that. Then the show mantra: where there is liberty, there is the Spirit of Christ. Where the Spirit of Christ is, there will be liberty, and the greater the Spirit of Christ, the greater liberty will be. All right, so I am going to bring on our first guest. It is Michael Letts of Invest USA, and I'm going to bring him on. I'm going to take back on, so the talk with Jon is over my head, not over his.
Hey, you know how to work it, Jon. I'm impressed.
All right. So, folks, this is Michael Letts, my good friend Michael Letts. Michael Letts is a Christian husband, founder, president, and CEO of Invest USA, a nonprofit organization providing thousands of bulletproof vests for law enforcement officers and first responders, as well as he has even helped the Border Patrol. So, the reason why I'm bringing on Michael Letts today is with the craziness that is happening across the nation, an attempt on the president's life, or what's happening in Mexico. I wanted to get Michael Letts' thoughts. Now, one of the main reasons why I got him on is because I know that he knows Mexico well. I didn't know that he was born and lived in that. Okay, I think he was born. I'm going to let him correct me. And but he lived in the region that a lot of this is happening. So, but before we get going and rolling, whenever I've got a minister, pastor, a chaplain on, I'd like to have him give Michael Letts, if you'll start us out with a word of prayer, that'd be awesome today.
Well, that'd be great, Jon. Let's just dedicate this time to the Lord. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to once again to be able to expound on truth. And we know all truth comes from you. May the words of our mouth, the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you for that. I want to let's start off with the attack on the president, or I guess it really wasn't an attack on the president because he was in Washington, D.C.
Correct.
But the man that went into Mar-a-Lago. Now, the news, what I've been hearing in the news is that this was a conservative who's upset with the Epstein release, who went and did a young man, I want to say in his early 20s, went into Mar-a-Lago around 1 o'clock. After a gate opened, he walked in. He had a shotgun and a can of gasoline, and was confronted by security, both local sheriff, as well as Secret Service. The report by, I believe it was the sheriff down there, said he put down the gas can and then raised his shotgun, and then when he did that, he was shot for his troubles. And frankly, I have no problem with that at all whatsoever. So, want to know, okay, what we're hearing in mainstream media and some, I'm going to say mainstream light conservative side places, is that information true?
With a little bit of tweaking, Jon. First of all, his parents are conservative. Would be safe to say. To say he himself is conservative would be a reach or a stretch. Second of all, he has just become involved in the political process, much like a lot of younger Americans are doing, not at the behest of conservative parents, but at the cry from mainstream media that we have an oligarch or one who is attempting to destroy democracy and freedom in this country. And if we don't do something to stop this administration, all hope for the future is gone. And, I mean, so really you have to put blame where the blaming lies, and that is with the mainstream media and the elected officials that are supporting the mainstream media and decrying that what we call deranged syndrome, that it makes no difference whether the president says it's raining, it's not. If the president says, it's a dollar bill, it's not. Whatever the president says, they automatically do the opposite. And they have created a climate to where they have convinced a segment of uneducated younger people who think that they are doing this country a great service by trying to stand in the way of this administration to keep it from moving forward. That's what you have with Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin traveled down, as you said, from North Carolina to Mar-a-Lago. He had a shotgun and a canister of gas. They were able to sneak past the north gate. They didn't go into the north gate. They snuck past it. The monitors picked that up and sent two Secret Service agents and a deputy, because local police works in conjunction with the Secret Service at residencies and locations to help provide protection. And they sent those agents out to confront him. They did, told him to lower the weapon, to drop the weapon and the gas can. He dropped the gas can, but he raised the shotgun to shoulder height and pressed it against his shoulder, obviously to take aim. And so the agents did what you would expect them to do. All three of them, the deputy and the two agents, returned fire, and in so doing, they eliminated the threat.
Well, while I feel bad for his parents, and I feel bad that he made the wrong decision, I feel really bad for the agents, but I am grateful for their actions and them taking the actions they did, because at least they get to go home to their families. And unfortunately, that young man made a very poor decision that did not allow him to do that. I mean, the bottom line is, so stand out in front of Mar-a-Lago and protest and have a sign for whatever issue you may have, and I think that would be appropriate. But as soon as you decide to take a firearm and a can of gas, you're in trouble, and you're unfortunately your options are pretty much taken out of your hands, and I have no problem with that.
Well said, John. Well said. I mean, when you make that decision, obviously people have asked at some of the shows I've been on, well, the president wasn't there. Could they not have done things differently? You have to understand, first and foremost, the decision to raise a weapon and point it at a law enforcement officers that are in front of you. You remember, now we've talked about this with so many other things with ICE, et cetera, et cetera. These all happen within a split second. You don't have time to think. Your body reacts the way it's been trained. And if you're a halfway decent agent or law enforcement officer, the way we've trained you is when there is a threat to security and safety of yourself, the people you represent, i.e. your community, protectee, whatever it may be, you first and foremost eliminate the threat.
And fellow agents. I mean, you've got your fellow for the Secret Service, their fellow agent. For the county sheriff, he's responsible also for protecting these Secret Service agents. So I'm going to say every single one of them acted in a very proper, and I'm going to even say godly manner. Your job in that situation, the American citizens have hired you to protect and defend, and protect and defend one another is part of those issues. So I'm totally good. So what do we know about this young man? What has come out? Do we know anything along the lines? They brought in Epstein. My thought is the reason why they're doing it to throw shade on the Epstein situation. Now let me also be clear, and Michael, I'm not going to make you. This is my opinion. I will agree that the federal government, the DOJ, Pam Bondi, the FBI are doing a terrible job of handling the Epstein situation. Terrible job. Uh, I'm talking to Joe Q citizen who is not really politically interested, and they are like, what is going on with the Epstein? Now there are a few that I speak with that are followers of like Ben Shapiro, um, and I have my questions with when it comes to Ben Shapiro, who are like, well, Ben Shapiro's statement is there's no evidence that there is anything that's happened with Epstein other than it was just him. And my question to you, Mr. Shapiro, is have you heard just some of the most mundane things like 7 adults going to share one tasty little piece of pizza? And boy, that little piece of pizza sure took care of all of us. When was the last? I mean, I'm sorry. If you're, and I would say to Cash Patel, if you heard a bunch of mobsters talking about a piece of pizza and the 7-Up service are going to take care of a piece of pizza, I would think a mob hit is going down.
Right.
And that would, and something strange like that is immediately I would expect, I would say you're being slothful in your job if you're not handling it, let alone the FBI already and federal government already knows that pizza is code words. And then let's not forget in some of the emails, they're talking about, in fact, one of them happened to be with a professor, if we starve the babies, if we don't feed them for 2 days, they will suck harder. And if we play their mom, they will suck. And if we play their mom's voices, recordings of their mom's voices, they will suck even harder. Okay, that does not sound like something that is just normal conversation. I don't know if you ever heard this, and I'm going off of memory here, and it's been years and years and years ago, and I want to say I heard it on. I watched, it was something about the mob on History Channel, if I remember correctly. And they said that I want to say it was even in the Gambino family, but it might not have been. But whenever they said someone's name and frog legs, that meant to kill him. Frog legs was the term. You kill the guy. Now,
Correct.
I could be wrong, but something tells me that is the type of situation. They don't. They people very rarely come when they know they're doing really, really bad. They have a tendency to use code.
In this situation, they definitely use code. We've known it for some time, and we actually have been able to decipher what the code words are, what they mean, and what they represent. And that's been well known for decades.
So I would say, yeah, to the Ben Shapiro's, what evidence what do you need for evidence to be suspicious? And
And by the way,
go ahead.
what I just said, John, is we're talking about the code. That did not deal with the Epstein files. We've had that code. That code has been a part of pedophilia and human sex trafficking for decades, long before we ever knew that Epstein was involved.
Well, so what I'm now hearing is Epstein didn't change and come up with his own code.
No,
Maybe he should have been smart enough to do that. But I guess he wants to use something that he can buy, sell, and trade and traffic in human beings.
Epstein was not the smartest person that you would have ever met, but Epstein was able to. He was slick and he was persistent. In other words, he knew what he wanted to, the objective he wanted to obtain. He knew how to get it. Obviously, when we're talking about this particular issue, human sex trafficking and, of course, drug cartels are the most lucrative businesses in the world. When we shut down the human sex trafficking and the fentanyl usage or carry through on the south of the border, we shut the border down. We have cost the cartels because you remember the cartels. This is what I want to make sure everyone understands because we're going to be talking about this with Mexico in just a few minutes. The cartels are not just drug dealers. The cartels are the major proponent for human sex trafficking. They have expanded their business. And notice what I just said. This is a business for them. It brings in over 100 billion, not million, $1 billion a year before we shut it down at the end of the beginning of last year. So we have now cost the drug cartels over $100 billion in annual revenue per year. They're not very happy, John, losing $100 billion a year. But that having been said, because of the fact that it is so lucrative, understand that that's why this is run like a business. As far as they're concerned, children are just like cattle. They're a product. They put no emotional attachment to it. They've developed a business plan, organizational plan, a distribution plan, people in charge, human resources, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is the most sophisticated business model you will ever find in any business school in America. And because of that, that's why it's been so successful on one keynote. They had to have access to power that could make things happen, access that could allow a border to be open so you could get your product across, access that could cause law enforcement to look the other way while operations and while deals were being put together, access that would allow implementation and ease into other national borders across the world. They knew what they needed to put in place. They did. They paid the price for it. When I'm talking about $100 billion, that's a lot of money to go around. You hand out money like that to people who are greedy to begin with, and let's face it, John, I know they're not going to like me for on this show very much longer. They probably won't let me come back, but most politicians are greedy. They're in it for themselves. What can I get out of it? How can it, A, broaden my power? B, how can it broaden my financial stability? And so they're perfect prime targets for this. And Epstein knew that by putting this business together, he could corner a market that could propel him to anywhere he wanted to go. Almost got there. He came very close. And part of what he realized, I don't think he realized at the time when he started this organization, this business, was that if you do it the right way and record and use that for blackmailing purposes, you can really then compound exponentially your influence because then you can cause people who may say, you can't pay me enough to do that, to do it anyway. I'm not going to pay you. I'm going to guarantee you that if you don't do it, you're ruined by the tapes that I have. So he found a very powerful business model, and that is what he utilized. And of course, here's what I want to make sure our listeners understand. You can't put together that kind of a business model with that kind of access as a nobody. And let's just be very blunt. Jeffrey Epstein was a nobody, okay? He did not have the schooling, financial backing, etc. He had a plan that other governments jumped on because, look, you can control votes because you got a blackmail mechanism. What more could you ask for, John? You can control the world. And so they all went up. We can't say that publicly because the constituency base would be horrified that our tax dollars were going to such a program. So you have to do it covertly, quietly. But they were all too happy to help funnel our tax dollars to a person who was willing to put his reputation and his future at stake to build such a business. And he did. And then we're kind of building into the story here. He did, ran great for a while. Then he was discovered by a particular person at a club, the Mar-a-Lago club, Donald Trump, who found out what he was doing, turned him in, told him that they should be investigated. Now, why is that important? Because we've said it before your show, John. When you look down, of course, the Democrats say, "Oh, Trump was mentioned thousands of times in the millions and millions of documents." Of course, he was. But if you read it every time, it is Jeffrey saying, "I hate the guy. What can we do to take him down?" Because he had been exposed. He actually even served a little just to show his power, though he served a little bit of jail time. He didn't serve anything of what he deserved because he had enough influence, enough within government, and enough money to buy his way out of it. He got some house arrest, I think it was, and that was
I
about
was
it.
about to say, it was. I don't even know that jail time is the proper way to put it. I do think he had to go. I believe it was him that he had to go to a specific, government housing, shall we say,
On the
to sleep.
weekends. Just
Or it
on the
was on the
weekends.
weekends. On the
He was at
weekends.
house arrest Monday through Friday because for all you remember he had to continue to work.
So he
So
was able to continue to work, continue to wonder what he was doing while he was working
well, you
some of that
remember
time.
technically he was telling you and I that his work was he was a financial advisor, a financial investment person. Although we never can find any record of him taking your money or my money or anybody else's money. But you remember he had plenty of money coming from the governments that he represented. So I guess technically he was investing it in human sex trafficking and making a killing off of it.
And then so he may not so this is kind of my opinion of Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was probably smarter than the average human being. Is he elite smart? Probably not, but one thing that he was able to do is he was able to get in with the right group. I think Ghislaine Maxwell is actually, and her father
Correct.
were
You're
the
the brain.
real brains.
Right.
And when her father was her father was found floating off the back of his yacht, very expensive yacht. Um, she took over the family business.
Correct.
And my opinion is Ghislaine Maxwell was actually the real engine behind it. But when you're as powerful as he wound up becoming because of all the backing that he had, you get to the point where in order to play, hey, if you want to be able to play ball, if you want to be part of this, you want to do, if you want to join us and play ball, guess what? You've got to come here and get yourself recorded on tape.
Right.
Those cameras were in the room and people knew that they were being watched and they were going in there willingly doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And I
No
believe with
question.
underage people. So that's the kind of power he was able to tote, and people went in there willingly knowing, hey, I'm doing this, but this is so I can be part of the club.
Correct. Correct. And it goes as we expand the story to show you how it works, John. Is so he built this network, he built this business, bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars. He partnered with the cartels because the cartels had the network to be able to. It's one thing for him just to represent 5 or 10 girls, but that doesn't make the kind of cash he's looking for. So he had to find a network. Cartels had that network, distribution of drugs. They partnered. How do we know this? This is an interesting scenario that I'm breaking on your show, John. Manchui, who was just killed by the Mexican government, who was the drug lord for the Juarez team in Jalisco, Mexico, in the Jalisco team, excuse me. We have just recovered. We'll leave it at that. We won't talk about how right now. We have just recovered the communications and the data, hardware and software that he possessed. We've just done a cursory review as of this moment, right before I came on your show. 232 very powerful key names who were ordering girls through the cartel system. This is part of their business model. Now we're going to track that down, and justice is coming. They just don't know it yet. But do you see what I'm trying to say? There is a documented, solidified partnership between the drug trafficking and the human sex trafficking. It's all one business now. They were smart enough to put it all together.
Okay, so let's now go into the other main topic that I wanted to bring you on, and we might wind up hitting some other topics. We might not, because we're now at 4:26 Utah time, 6:26, and we're gonna have you on for an hour. My question is, so the Mexican cartel hit this, did this, was struck mostly by the Mexican government. My guess, we know that the United States helped provide intelligence. My guess is satellite, at the very least, satellite and some other communications, probably data that they were able to gather. Um, what what are your do you think we had actually? I'm like, this is perfect for the Green Berets to be involved in. I guarantee the CIA was somewhere
Well,
around there.
let's give the history so that everybody understands where we're at, how we got here. So I just mentioned to you that they were involved with human sex trafficking.
Oh, let's hit that first real quick. You said 232
And counting.
names and counting. How many of those are all of those Mexican?
Oh, I don't think any of
names?
those are Mexican names.
Do you so? Are you implying that some of those might be American
I'm
names?
implying that not only are there some of them maybe American names, I'm implying that most of those names are global names, and you won't have any problem recognizing who they are. You have to understand when you get to that kind of a position, you don't say, John, just send me somebody that you think I want. No, I get on the phone and tell you, John, these are the characteristics I'm looking for, and I want you to meet it to the T. And they have that kind of communication. They have that kind of, I mean, it's a business, okay? It's like you calling and saying, I want a desk that's a little wider than the normal desk, or I want gold little knobs on my desk. I mean, this is a business. And that's exactly how they operated it. And so when you're in that kind of position to make those kind of orders, you are and they keep a Rolodex. They know when your birthday is. Hey, enjoy doing business with you. You know, you know, next order, let me know what you need. And it was on a continual basis. So we're setting the stage. The administration, the Trump administration, was advised of that and made aware of it. This is the day he was inaugurated, 12 months, over 12 months ago. And so he immediately on the day of the inauguration issued executive orders that classify the cartels as terrorist organizations so that we could now engage military operations and to assist in taking them down. Now, we knew that the Jalisco cartel was one of the most notorious. You didn't hear about it. You heard about MS-13. You heard about Tren de Aguada. But the Jalisco cartel is probably more torturous, more aggressive, I think would be key words, than the other two that we just talked about. And so the president himself said that you got to take them and bring them down. This has been a year operation. We were in the process now of moving forward with that. He notified the Mexican government. Now, remember, I told you I lived there. I know it like the back of my hand. The Mexican government is controlled by the cartels. Okay, well, let's talk about what I mean by control. Let's talk about first of all what I mean by government. We're not just talking about the president or the Congress. We're talking about the Mexican president, the Mexican Congress, etc. We're talking about the military. We're talking about their law enforcement, state law enforcement, local law enforcement. We're talking about the whole enchilada. And what do I mean by control? It's not that I have John or one or two others that kind of help me try to get things done. It is so controlled. You want to join the military? If you don't have the blessing of the cartel, you don't get to join. You want to get elected to their Congress? If they don't endorse you, you don't go anywhere. If you want to get a promotion and you're in the military, you're a corporal, you want to become a sergeant, ain't happening unless you got their sign off. That's how strongly they control the situation. So you've got the president of the United States, you've got President Trump telling the Mexican president, Selena, that you got to do something. We are not going to allow you to continue to try to thwart our activities. We've shut the border down. Doesn't mean anything to them. They were still kept trying to run drugs if they could. We kept interdicting it. But we're not going to allow that to continue to happen. What was our first response? If you will recall, go back in your mind in history. You don't tell Mexico what to do.
Yeah,
we're our own sovereign country. We do what we want to.
Then we make our own decisions in our we make our own decisions in our own country.
So then the president quietly Sent word back, your economy doesn't work without us. Maybe we'll make a decision that we're going to dump your economy. So then she began to backpedal. Well, now you remember the cartels are running her. She's not running herself. And here's what I want our listeners to understand when I say running her. It's not just her. They know where her husband's at. They know where her kids are at. They know where her parents are at. They know where her in-laws are at. They know where all of her cousins and nephews are at. You step out of line once, and it costs you. Suddenly, you're missing some nephews or some nieces, never to be returned again. You get the message real quick. So she's trying to walk a thin line. How do I satisfy President Trump and keep the cartels at the same time? Because they're obviously diametrically opposed. The president, what really was generating the president was not just the fentanyl. It was the human sex trafficking, the child human sex trafficking. It just irritated the president to no end. And so, no, we're shutting it down. All right, what do you want to do, Mr. President? We will provide the intel. That's our intelligence agencies, along with military logistics, to you to go in. Now, hear what I'm saying. Go in and capture. Why is that important? That's negotiations. That is controlling the cartels, okay? Go in and capture the head of the cartel, Manchua, in Jalisco, and then we will pick it up from there. We provided them that information. They took that information. They sent the Mexican military. Now understand, because you remember the Mexican military is controlled by the cartels. That's like sending a bunch of cats to walk on a tin roof at 100-degree temperature. So it didn't go very well. And Manchua was caught in the crossfire, and he was killed, not on purpose, but he was caught in the crossfire, and he and two of his bodyguards were hit. We put them in a helicopter to try to save their lives. So they didn't make it until they got to the hospital in Mexico City. They were dead by the time the helicopter arrived. So that having been said, now look at what happened.
Whoa. So we're talking about the head cartel guy.
Mm-hmm.
When you say we put him in a helicopter to try to get him to the hospital, are we talking about Mexico, or are we talking about the United States assistance?
We're advising. So let's you can read in between the lines, John, but
there's a part of me that says let him bleed out.
Well, you got your wish, because that's actually what happened. So anyway, now instead of controlling the head of the snake,
okay, can I use that as a qualifier?
Sure.
I actually think that is really awesome that they did put him in a helicopter to try to take him to the hospital and to try to save his life. I actually think that goes to show the level of good that the United States and somewhat this lady with Mexico is willing to do. Okay, sorry, continue.
But I will agree with you, but there's also an added benefit to it as well. What's the added benefit? Is if you would have been able to control the head of the snake, we would be in a much different position. Instead, what happened is you killed the head of the snake. You cut off the head of the snake, and you weren't prepared by cutting off the other 10 senior command officers. So now you have 10 heads on the snake instead of one. And
created
now
a Hydra.
10 are going, and they're fighting among themselves. Who gets to assume lead command? And how do you win by being lead command? Well, you show you're the most aggressive. You're the most lethal. And so now you begin to see what's happened as this occurred. Suddenly, these 10 are now positioning their supporters, and they're going to say, we're going to show you, Mexican government and American government, because they've actually issued a statement declaring war on the Mexican government and on the United States of America. So technically, we are at war as far as they're concerned with the cartels in Mexico. What did they do to implement their war plan? They then, this is just in the last few hours, they began to do raids on the airports. Our intel shows intercepted messages that they are going to go hotel to hotel, lobby to lobby, check the registry, and see if they can find any American or Canadian. Unfortunately for Canada, they've been put in the same boat. Tourists that are there. We know, John, that we have hundreds, perhaps even more, thousands that may be there that are trapped behind what I call enemy lines. We have issued the
Okay, I want to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole.
Sure.
So, one thing I've heard recently is that a number of these hotels, while not directly owned by the cartel, same similar situation with casino, the mob gives somebody money or a group money so
Yeah.
they can launder it. They might as well be a number of these hotels that the Americans are staying in might as well literally be owned by the cartels. They know who's
They are
staying
owned by the cartels, John. They are owned by the cartels. The resorts, Puerto Vallarta, used to stay there. Can't even tell you how many times. I lived in Guadalajara, lived in Tilapia. Um, like I said, I grew up with these people. I mean, the heads of the cartels now are people I used to play in the streets with. So I can tell you, I know what their character and what their value system is. They control it. They're crazy. They think that they have the ability. And why do they think this? And I want to take a little rabbit trail like you did just for a second ago. You recall the billions upon billions of dollars in armaments that we supposedly sent to Ukraine. That even Zelensky has said that less than 30% or over 70% never got there. Now he's lying. They got there. They just weren't used for the purpose that they were intended to be used for. They were put on the black market. Who do you think has the capital to buy that kind of? This is advanced military operational equipment. When you're getting $100 billion a year, you're probably one of the only ones that can afford it. We know this to be a fact because just hours ago, John, we captured 2 rocket launchers. I'm not talking about RPGs. I'm talking about rocket launchers, advanced military equipment. They can take out a plane at 30,000 feet. You can put a warhead on and we could hit New York, take out 3/4 of New York. We're talking about major military hardware that we know is there. How much of it is there? Our intelligence agencies are scrambling to figure out exactly everything that they could or could not be there. So these people mean business. That's why they're beginning to puff out their chests because of what they do have. And plus, you need to be aware of this. They have over 100. We think it may be closer to 1,000. What we call FOBs, forward operating bases, in this country, where they have cartel organizations with their members in various cities and various locations. And the intel that we have intercepted indicates that that's part of their plan. They want to turn them loose out onto the streets, shooting anybody that moves, creating holy hell in America. So this is what they think they have to offer. And what are all alternatives? Well, we have sent very firm dialogue. You touch a hair of an American, and we are prepared to move in, and we will come and get our own. First of all, this is an administration that leaves no American behind. We will come get what is ours. Second of all, just be advised that when we come and get it, when we walk out the door to leave, we have a scorched earth policy. There will be nothing left standing. So you decide if you want to proceed down this vein, do so at your own risk, because we will come and get what is ours, and there will be nothing standing, not just you, your children, your grandchildren, your relatives. There will be nothing left when we leave. Make your decision and make it wisely. What we have been hearing over the last few hours is that's under consideration. But John, I fear that these people are just had a little bit too much of their own product, drug-wise, and I'm not very comfortable, very confident that we're not going to have to go in and clean up this mess ourselves. The Mexican government is incapable. People say, well, just let the Mexican army go take care of it. Why would the army go against the people that are paying them? They're not going to do it. They don't have.
Well, you said almost at the beginning of this part of the conversation, you said in order to not only be an elected official, but to get into the military, you have to have the cartel's blessing. I'm so what I'm yeah, that and so there's a number of reports that like they don't know if it's the cartel driving by in armored vehicles or if it's the Mexican military driving by.
The cartel.
And so the other thought that I had is, I feel really, really bad for these Mexican citizens But the one thing that we have in the United States is there's 1.25 registered firearms for every American.
Firearms are illegal in Mexico, believe it or not.
Firearms, and that's what I was going to say. Firearms are illegal for the individual to own in Mexico. I'm a little worried about some of our fellow citizens that are expats, and there's I'm a little concerned for some of them. I think some of them were probably about to be in pretty big trouble. But the bottom line is, here in America, it could get a little crazy, but the bottom line is 1.2 firearms for every American citizen. Every American, that's a fair number of firearms. I don't know that we will hopefully we don't have the same problems that they would there.
Well, and the other thing I want to point out, and this is one of the driving factors in this conversation we're having, understand that the cartel patterns itself after the Taliban or ISIS. So what do we mean by that? They don't come and pickpocket you, John. They don't ask for your watch. They hold you hostage. And they're not hostage the way we have learned our definition in America. Hostage means they torture you first, they mutilate you second, then they string what's left of you up over a bridge to serve as a reminder to anybody else. Cross us, and this is what happens to you. America's not prepared for that. We've never had that happen in our country or in a neighboring country right next to us. Because you remember now they have FOB, forward operating bases in this country that they have trained them to do the same thing. So what I'm trying to say in this interview with you, John, is look, this is not something we can laugh at or just say, I ain't gonna worry about it. You'll work itself out by in the morning. This is a very serious threat to our country and to our national sovereignty. And we have to deal with it and deal with it very forcefully and very quickly before it gets out of hand, or it's going to be a real mess for a long time to come.
Okay, so how many of these forward operating bases, meaning forward operating cartels, I'm gonna call them just terrorist groups?
That's what they are.
These terrorist cells. How many of them do we know exist, and how many of them do we have under watch?
Well, and here's what we're discovering. This is why I'm giving you a bad show, John, but at least we're being truthful in the situation. They're smart. They have partnered with terrorists. They've partnered with Islamic jihadists. They've partnered with the Muslims. And we know that we have over 1,100 of those organizations. So you can go ahead and put those 1,100 in as part of their mix. How many more they bring? We could be between 11 to 1,500 of them across this country.
And we're poking the bear with Iran. Yeah, I could see Iran and making a phone call over to
That's what the intel tells us.
And say, let's get it on.
And what you see, my frustration, and I've said this, I'm probably not the most popular person in DC at the moment, but that is why I said with Iran, look, we know what we have to do. You can't trust them. Quite frankly, we're going to have to go in. We gave our word. Get it done. Instead of putting our whole armada, the majority of our forces over there, you should have gotten it done and been home by now. What they want to do is divide us and make us operate out of two theaters. We did it in World War II, but I'm not so sure we have the capacity to do that at the moment, John. I believe in the resolve of the spirit of the American people. We will prevail. We'll do what's necessary, but you're stretching us awfully thin.
Yeah, we can't even make tires in the United States.
Correct.
Yeah, we've got. Well, actually, we do make some tires, but the majority of our tires are made overseas. Yeah, we would have a very hard time sustaining ourselves. We don't make all of our silicone chips. Yeah, we we probably have Chinese controlled chips in our military aircraft and
right.
and military equipment. We're in trouble.
You see, and there's a difference here. I just want to make sure our listeners understand the difference what we're talking about. In Iran, you have a populace that desires freedom. They will provide their own boots on the ground, if you want to use that term. We can provide strategic and strikes to take out infrastructure to allow them to come in and do what they need to do without having to put our own boots on the ground. In Mexico, here, let's try to apply the same formula. So we take out some centers of operations. Do you think the Mexican government is going to do anything about it when their funding comes from the cartels? The only way that we're going to secure victory in Mexico is that there's a good possibility we will have to put boots on the ground. And we will have to take on the cartel. We're not taking on the Mexican army. We're taking on the cartel. So we need to have those assets where they're quickly able to be mobilized. Right now, we got them tied up over in the Middle East.
That's concerning.
It is. This has been an interview that I was enjoying, looking forward to talk to you about, but it's not one I'm particularly excited about having to do with anybody. But I will tell you this, John, if we want to stick our head in the sand, we're going to get it chopped, okay? So we better wake up and do what's necessary to make sure we keep America safe and secure and free, or we're going to lose her.
So the population of Mexico is somewhere between 130 to 132 million, 133 million. Is kind of the estimates given to me by Google. Population of Mexico, firearms owners. Estimations suggest there are over 3 million to 20 million firearms in circulation amongst civilians in Mexico.
Here's what's interesting, because remember, I'm giving you personal experiences now. They've got some of the most collectible firearms you will ever find in history. I remember when I was down there, they would bring out old 30-30s. You remember in the Western movies, the 30-30 with the lever action? They use those all the time. Confederate muskets, Revolutionary muskets, Union muskets, prevalent down there. They have an awful lot. 6-shooters. Oh man, they still got the old West. There's firearms that in America you couldn't put a price tag on. They're all over the place down there, but they're hidden. That's why they're able to keep them. They hide them. They pass them on from generation to generation, and they only bring them out for self-defense if a burglar tries to sneak into their house. That's just the way it operates.
Okay, so the other thought that comes to my mind is I would love to see the United States, but Mexico really needs an El Salvador situation.
They do. They have got to be delivered from the cartel. And here's what I'm telling people. We did it in Venezuela. You remember what happened when Maduro was run by the cartels? Folks, I am the biggest proponent of America first. And there are things that you and I can get on. We've been on your show before, John, that we're not doing accountability like we need to. There's some things that we need to get done in this administration. But part of America first is making sure that we can have a safe country for our grandchildren. And quite frankly, countries that are right next to us that are putting to pump in fentanyl and drugs and come steal our young people and put them into sex slavery is not in America's national security best interest. And we need to have enough backbone to realize that and to eliminate it while we have the ability to do so.
Do you think that there's anyone in Mexico that could rise up?
Let me tell you, the Mexican
to is it Boublier? Who's El Salvador's president? I'm pulling else I'll do that real quick.
While you're doing that, I'll answer your question. The Mexican people are just as disgusted with the cartel as anybody else is, but they have no ability to fight it. If someone led the way and gave them the support, Bukele. If somebody gave them the support, yes, I believe the Mexican people would seize that opportunity in a moment. But understand, they have to be armed. I mean, they've got to have the ability to fight. You can't ask them to be boots on the ground with nothing but sandals and a stick and a broomstick. That's not going to work.
Yeah. I just don't know what to think with Mexico. I right at the moment, I don't have a ton of faith that things are going to get a lot better.
Well, I would agree. And to make matters worse, I'll give you the last final thing, then I'll try to be positive in the last part of the interview. Yeah. So, what is the Democratic response? We're going to cut funding for Homeland Security because we don't like ICE. Well, let me give you a little lesson in politics, Democrats. First of all, ICE has already been funded under the beautiful big bill, okay? You're not really harming ICE. But who are you hurting? You're hurting Homeland Security. Who's under Homeland Security? Border Patrol, Coast Guard, TSA, FEMA, and others. But let's just take the first two I mentioned. Who keeps the illegal immigrants, the drug cartels, the human sex traffickers from trying to cross the border? Border Patrol and the Coast Guard on the water. And now you're putting them at a disadvantage. You're cutting their funding. You're doing that intentionally, Democrats. This is your response to a crisis. Make it 10 times worse. Gee, where did you people get a brain?
Okay, so here, what is Democrat response to this?
Just what I said. They're burying their head. They see it as an opportunity to advance their agenda. And what is their agenda? I got to get back in power. I want illegals to come across because remember, I get to use them at the ballot box to make sure that I have enough votes. I want to dismantle the illegal immigration deportation. I want crime to go up so I can turn around and say, see, you put your hope in conservatism, you put your hope in Trump. Ha, look what he got you. You need to give it back to us. That is their ultimate objective. They are so obsessed with regaining power that they'll sell you and I down the river and our children in a heartbeat and not think twice about it. And that's what they're doing. They won't sell us. They've already sold us down the river and won't think twice about it.
One of my one of my questions is, did President Trump specifically time this for his State of the Union address?
It's a fair question. I'll probably reserve comment on that. Yeah, I know too much.
Okay. I'm like, so that was another thought that went through my mind was this is being coordinated. Wondering if this is part of his. Obviously, he's going to be mentioning this in his
I
State of the
suspect he'll
Union.
have a word or two to say about it. Yeah.
Okay. What's the easiest? What is the likelihood that this doesn't come here to America's shores inside the inside the United States? What do you think the chances are that we don't have any backlash here in the US?
I think it's almost impossible not to have backlash. Get back to where we initially started this conversation. I took $100 billion away from you, John. You're not going to walk away from that. You're going to do whatever you need to try to restore at least some of it. And you're taking whatever you've already got in play. You've already got forward operating bases. Whatever you have, you realize you can't survive with me cutting you that bad. You're just not going to make it. You have no choice but to try to play every card you have in the deck. And so I fully expect that's where we're going to be. Which gets back to the Democratic response. Don't you think it's a good idea that we make sure our law enforcement have the best, have everything they need to defend us? Because it looks like we're getting called into a major conflict very shortly here.
When do you think that those chickens will come home to roost?
I think they're already set in place. I think they're already, our intel services show those calls are already being made. The question will be, and here's what I'm pressing for. If I smack you hard enough on the first go around, John, you won't come back for a second hit. So it's imperative that we move quickly and aggressively and decisively now. Not the mistake we just made about, well, let's give negotiations a further chance. We're talking about Iran. Let's wait another week. Let's wait another 2 weeks. Yeah, you can't hurt. Maybe wait another week. That will cause bloodshed, needless loss of life for Americans if we continue to do that.
So I hope Delta Force is on call. I hope every special forces team is on call.
This is what I understand as I'm coming to press with you. And we're verifying, so I want to be very cautious of what I say. I want to frame it the right way. It is our understanding that there is a video that we're having to vet, make sure, because AI can do amazing things. that shows a number of Americans who were captured at the airport being done to what I told you they would do. If that proves to be the case, the decision's already been made. If you have desecrated and harmed an American, we're no longer having the discussion on this show. It's over. And we will deal holy hell that you will not realize how bad you're going to get hit, because it's coming.
Well, yeah, I think we tear them apart.
Trust me, we lead the charge.
I mean, I'm like, you send in tanks, you send in
whatever is necessary,
whatever we have. Now, here's what I have my concerns for the average Mexican citizen. Let's hope that hasn't happened, because these yahoos are burning up gas stations. You have two gas stations. Say like a town has two gas stations, you get that up and going. You light those on fire, and then you go to the next town and you light those on fire. Very soon, very quickly, you have a very bad situation where you're killing the economy of the public. And
Correct.
So I'm hoping that the American, or the average Mexican citizen, stands up and says, we're done.
We're going to have somebody lead them, John. They're too scared to do otherwise.
Is there anyone? So I'm going to ask this again. Do you know of any Mexican citizen,
yes,
that is willing to do that?
But they're smart enough. We are in touch. They're smart enough that I'm not sticking my name out there and doing what you did in Iran. Hey, I'm right behind you. And then I'm looking, and what does behind mean? How far is behind? I thought it was like 2 steps behind, not 2 miles behind. So it all has to come to play. It has to come to play very quickly. And that's what we're hoping for.
Because I think there's a lot more firearms in Iran, privately held firearms in Iran, than there is in Mexico.
That's correct. And part of the process will be this, John. And it's the same with Iran. I'll give you where there are some similarities. We will have to make sure that the armaments are placed where they can be best utilized by the people who need them, not our people, not our boots on the ground, but by the citizens themselves. You arm the citizens themselves in both localities, and I believe you'll have fundamental change.
Well, I am grateful that there are a number of my fellow citizens that have firearms, and hopefully we won't have to use them to protect ourselves from the cartels. So I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave with my kind of this my parting comment will be this. May Mexico find someone that had a good Christian to rise up like Bukele has. And one of the things that impresses me, probably the thing that impressed me the most about Bukele, is he says before every single one of his meetings with his cabinets, they started off with a word of prayer, and they pray for Christ to give them insight. So the prayer in my heart is for Mexico, that the people may turn better towards Christ, and find that individual that's willing to lead them, and that here in the United States, that we'll do a better job ourselves turning towards Christ and stop killing babies and the other nefarious things that happen around here.
I can tell you real quick, John, we spent 15 years establishing churches, raising up those in the faith. So I know that they exist. I know where they're at, and I know what they're willing to do. But I also know that I agree with them that your word has to be your bond. If you're going to back us, then back us, and we can prevail. Don't jerk us around.
Right. Michael, any last thoughts, and then I want you to share how people can support Invest USA.
Couple quick, I'll be very, very brief. Realize how blessed we are in this country. We gave 2 examples, Iran and Mexico, that you don't want to be living as a citizen over there at the moment. Realize how blessed we are. Be thankful for what God has given this country. Be willing to stand up to defend it, including fighting for it if that's what it comes to in this country. And thank you, John, for helping to spread the truth. God bless you, and God bless America. If they want to help support our first responders now more than ever, because guess who's going to have to defend the borders now when these things are starting to head south? And that is our Border Patrol and our first responders that are on the line. Go to investusa.org. It's a charity.org. Contribute whatever you can. Let's make sure our boys and girls have the necessary equipment to at least be effective in defending themselves as they defend us. God bless you, and God bless America.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, my friend. Thanks for being here today. God bless you. God bless your wife. God bless the USA, and God bless God bless investusa.org. Thank you for all you do for taking care of our first responders, my friend.
Couldn't do it without you, John. You take care of yourself.
Take care, my friend. See ya. Have a great one. All right, folks, that was Michael Letts of Invest USA. We're grateful that he was able to join us. Great American. Love having him with us. We have him at least monthly, and situations like we've had this weekend, I like to bring him on and get his thoughts. So but now I want to bring on another guest that I haven't had on for quite some time. It's been a while, and hopefully he's got video as well as audio. Looks like he's muted, and I'll be bringing him on here momentarily. But first, I want to introduce him real quick, and let's see if I can get. Let's see. Oops, I did not want to do that. History. I just closed one of my windows. Recently visited. Boy, it's not wanting to work with me. So, I thought I had that open. I am not seeing that. There it is. My very first tab. Duh. UtahGrassroots.org and Highland Meeting Group. The founder of that, well, at least not the founder of the Highland Meeting Group, but let's see if we can bring on Lowell Nelson, my good friend Lowell Nelson from K-Talk Radio. Lowell, thank you for joining me.
Happy to be with you, John. Good afternoon to you.
It's good to have you here, my friend. So, let's see. Lowell Nelson, folks, is a talk show host on K-Talk, or at least has been for many years. You're still doing the morning show. Have you stopped recently? Because last time I tuned in, not too long ago on a Tuesday morning, I heard my good friend Lowell Nelson, you still working the airwaves.
Yeah, sure am, John. Every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10, we talk about state sovereignty, state and local sovereignty, actually. And I try to keep up with election news. I have a 15-minute segment with Lou Moore, who aggregates election-related stories at securevote.news. I like to talk about state sovereignty and local sovereignty, and then I usually have a guest on the last half of my show, and so I'm still doing that. It's still a lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate you doing it. Appreciate what you do for freedom, Lowell, and especially taking care of the state. And so, would you quickly share with our audience what is state sovereignty?
Yeah, it's actually referring to the sovereignty of the people domiciled within that state. It's not like the state is sovereign, but it is the people within the state who are sovereign. And of course, they elect public servants to be their agents, to carry out their will. And it's those public servants then that exercise the sovereignty of the people in their behalf. It's like a sheriff that stands between you and a tyrannical government. It's very similar. And so it's the doctrine of the lesser magistrate, so to speak. So if you have a state governor who's willing to stand up for you, like who was it? The guy, DeSantis in Florida stood up for his people, and he says, "We are done with these mandates. We are done with masking. We're not going to do any of that garbage." And he stood up and did what he thought was right, and the feds didn't do anything to him, right? Even though they threatened to. And so that is an exercise of state sovereignty right there, which is really the exercise of the sovereignty of the people of the state of Florida.
I don't see Spencer Cox doing something like that.
Unfortunately, John, you and I know him too well, don't we?
You may know him well. I know of him well. I know what he has and he hasn't done. But I do not know Spencer. Yeah, if I was to step in front of Spencer Cox, I don't think he would know me from Adam. But yeah, I must say that Spencer Cox has greatly. Would it be fair for me to say I've been very disappointed in him, but I'm not surprised either.
I was wondering why I couldn't see my image on the show. It was because I hadn't clicked this little camera button at the bottom of the software. Now I clicked it, and not only can I see you, John, but you can see me now.
Now I can see you, handsome man that you are. Okay, have you retired?
No, I'm still working. I love what I do, John. Sorry, still love what I do.
Well, if you love what you do, and you're still able to do it, and they still want you there, which I'm sure they do, then I appreciate it. So I'm assuming well, I'm not going to ask you if you're at work.
I am.
Okay, so we definitely are not going to ask where you work at. So I do not want you, I'm serious, do not tell us, because a freedom-minded individual like you, the wrong people find out where you work, I could see them calling and saying, "That rascal." So hopefully you've got some freedom-loving people that support you. All right, let's get into you. Two things that Lowell Nelson does is are you over the Highland Meeting Group with Kristen stepping down and taking on and being a representative now?
We still both co-host that meeting, and so you can always find her at that meeting. She and I vet the proposed speakers, and we're always looking for people to come to speak. We love local talent, meaning we like it when common everyday citizens like you and me, John, begin to specialize in something, become an expert in something, and then come talk about it, whether it's politics or preparation. Those are the two things that we focus on, either politics or prep, right? Preparedness. And so, for example, Otto Kraus is a gentleman from Weber County. He studied ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center. He became so well acquainted with that private organization to which Spencer Cox sends all of our voter data when it should be held and retained here in the state of Utah to be private. Anyway, Otto became so familiar with ERIC that we invited him to come down and make a presentation, which he did. And of course, we recorded the presentation. And all of our presentations like that are found on Rumble. We have a Rumble channel. And yeah, so Otto was awesome. We've also had somebody, Caleb Warnock, come teach us about gardening in Utah. And the whole evening was devoted just about how to grow vegetables and fruits and how to prepare the soil so that you could garden successfully right here in Utah, which has some of the, the poorest soil in the country. And so it's either politics or preparedness, and both Kristen and I decide who we want to come speak at our events, which is usually held on the first Friday of each month, except for 2 months out of the year, July and August, we take a break. And then usually in January or sometimes in September, it's not the very first Friday because that's a holiday Friday, when in that case we go to the second Friday of the month.
Well, this month you also held it on the 21st, you scoundrel.
Well, that was just a special that was a special favor to Gabriella, because that was not a Highland meeting. that was
Oh, okay.
but we had Gabriella at the Highland meeting in November of 24, and she has such such a what do you call it? Such an appealing story, such a story that just draws you in. It's a compelling story that I wanted to advertise it, and I'm glad I did, because there were 2 or 3 couples from the Highland Meeting group who attended that presentation by Gabriella. And they walked away, of course, with a brand new, fresh understanding of how bad life is in Cuba under a communist regime. So so that wasn't technically a Highland meeting, but I wanted her to have good attendance, which she did, really good attendance. There was probably, I don't know, between 60 and 70 people there, and it was just a rewarding opportunity. Not only was she there, John, but she had a friend named Andreas there. His accent was a lot thicker than hers, so it's a little more difficult to understand him, but he had recently come from Cuba, recently gotten out, fortunately, and he backed up and verified, he corroborated everything that Gabby was saying about the austere Spartan life that they live there in Cuba. They're never going back, John. They are here to stay. They hope that we don't fall into the same traps that Cuba fell into in the early 60s when the communists took over, Fidel Castro took over. But they see the same things happening here that were happening there, that she heard her grandmother talk about happening, where the government would take control of the airwaves and they would begin to control what you thought and what you said and so forth. And that's happening here. The woke culture is bubbling up all around us, and
Spencer Cox culture.
yes, and she does not want to have happen to us here in America what happened to them in Cuba. So she's spreading her message. She travels, she talks, she goes to universities and to schools, high schools, elementary schools, anybody that will have her. She'll go and tell them what life is really like under communism. And it's very educational, very informative, and people walk away with a better understanding that socialism, communism, Marxism is bad, and that the free market is really where you find liberty.
All right, I want to hit. So the main reason why I asked Lowell to join us today was I wanted him to go over. I received a newsletter from him, and it's utahgrassroots.org. What do you do with Utah Utah Utes? utahgrassroots.org. What do you do with them?
Hey, I cheer for the running Utes whenever I can, John. Except when they're playing BYU Cougars. I'm usually out there, pulling for the Utes. So I'm happy for them when they win, except when they play BYU. How's that?
Fair enough.
So for
Old
Utah,
habits die hard, folks. Old habits die hard.
utahgrassroots.org is an organization. It's basically a collection of maybe a dozen or maybe 18 individuals who study the bills being considered by the legislature. We do this every year. We've been doing it for over 20 years. And you can go to utahgrassroots.org and look at all of our past reports. We issue a yearly report, an annual report, which and basically we choose a basket of bills, and these bills are bills which either line up with or oppose the positions that we take. Utah Grassroots has, we are committed to limited government. We're committed to the Constitution, to representative government, to a participatory republic, to the free market economy. We're committed to family and to the separation of powers. And so we have a short list of principles to which we are committed.
Do
Utah
you want me
Grassroots.
to read those off? I've got that pulled up right now if you don't have that
Please.
right in front of you. So, these are let me read what you have at the
Sure.
very top of the email that I received. It says, many Utah Republican Party delegates read and enjoy our annual report that grades legislators according to their votes on a basket of bills as measured by the following principles: limited government, constitution, representative government, participatory republic, free market economy, family, and separation of powers. So those are the principles. So those 7 principles are the principles that you guys use to guide you.
Right. And so then we choose bills that that separate the sheep from the goats, so to speak. So we don't look at what how a legislator voted until after we pick the bills, but we pick the bills which illustrate these principles, either illustrate these principles or illustrate the violation of these principles. And then we choose about 24 of these bills every year. This is after the session is over. And then we do that without looking at how legislators voted. And then once we feel comfortable with this basket of bills, then we look at how the legislators voted on these bills.
Let me guess, your two highest legislators are Todd Weiler and Mike McKell.
Well, if you turn the page upside down, then yes, they would be at the top.
Okay, got it. Got it. I'm gonna bet that a number I'm gonna assume that our the Speaker of the House probably sucks at that too, and the President of the Senate probably is towards the bottom of the list on that as well. But I couldn't resist that. In fact, do some Democrats do better than those guys that I just mentioned?
Probably so. I don't pay
Okay.
much attention to everybody on that list, so I'm not sure, but that's probably true, what you suspect.
I see. I made a little laugh, folks. Yeah.
I'm a pretty sober guy most of the time, but when I get with you, John, I just can't help but laugh. You have such a jovial nature about you, cherubic smile, you know. It's just fun being around you, John.
Cherubic. Let's say what the smile really is like. I've been told by so many people, John, you've got that Cheshire cat smile, and yeah, probably.
Yeah, I believe it.
Uh,
So there are 104 legislators, right? There's 75 in the House, there's 29 in the Senate. The sum of those two numbers is 104. We also rate the governor. If he vetoes or signs a bill, we give him a score as well. And so then that report we publish every year, sometime usually in April or May. I guess it's usually in April, and then we like to distribute that report to all of the delegates, state and county delegates that we run into, people who are actively involved with their legislators, so that they know whether their legislator is good, bad, or in the middle somewhere. And that's very helpful. We have dozens and dozens of people, John, every year thank us over and over for producing this report. And so I think it's very helpful. I hope it's basically a service. We don't charge for the report. It's totally free. All of our time is volunteer. And so that's kind of where that report comes from, John.
Okay, so I want to ask you, what are some of the bills so far? Have there been any bills that you've been like, "Ooh, that's a good one that got through"? I want your thoughts on Prop 4 because ooh, I hate these groups like the League of Mormon Women or whatever it is. Let's be clear on what they I mean, are any of them Mormon actually active members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints? I doubt it. They may claim to be, but just right off their name, I'm like, something's questioning. And let me guess, Miss Edwards, I forget her first name, that ran
Becky.
for Becky, but she's one of the main players in that group. And so, because we have the right name and we're nice little ladies, what are your thoughts on Prop 4?
I want to revert's not the right word, repeal Prop 4 because the Constitution, the state of Utah has a Constitution. And in that Constitution, it lays the responsibility for drawing congressional boundaries and legislative district boundaries squarely on the shoulders of legislators. Didn't give it to the courts, didn't give it to the governor. It gave that response. We, the people of the state of Utah, gave that responsibility to 104 individuals in the Utah legislature. And this Prop 4 came along in 2018 and said, hey, we want an independent commission to make recommendations to the legislature. Now, if it was just recommendations where the legislature then would make the final decision, that would be fine. And if that's what happened in 22, by the way, the recommendations came, the legislature chose not to accept those recommendations. They chose their own map. And then these organizations that you just mentioned, John, they sued, they went to court, and Judge Gibson sided with the NGO, the NGOs that were suing the legislature, and said, you will use this map that was provided by a
Now,
private
was that a
organization,
federal judge or was that a state court?
a state district court judge. Yep. And so she said
He needs
that,
to be impeached.
yeah, or not retained at the next retention election. Yeah, for sure. So she doesn't understand the words, the plain language of the Utah Constitution, which gives that responsibility to the legislators. So that's how Prop 4 has been twisted into this notion that a judge can now dictate to the state of Utah how our congressional districts will be drawn. That's why I want to repeal Prop 4.
So I'm hearing a lot about Prop 4. Can we repeal it? What can be done? And what's happening that you know of?
Last weekend, the February 15th, yeah, so that was just a week and a half ago, was the final day by which signatures for the initiative petition to repeal Prop 4 were due. And I have not heard, in fact, they're probably not done yet, counting the signatures, verifying the signatures to see whether or not we got the 139,000 or so signatures that we needed to get from the various 26 of the 29 Senate districts in the state. But I did see a social media post. I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but I happened to run across one a couple of days ago saying that we had been successful, but that is not an official source, so I still think that's up in the air. But we're to that point where very soon, in the next week or so, if not already, they will announce whether or not our initiative petition was successful. In which case, then that question will be on the November ballot this year.
And they went really hard after that initiative. There were a number of news spots saying, we're really saying people were giving bad information and lying when they would go to people's doors. I'm like, really? I don't remember this information going out when Spencer Cox didn't come up with enough signatures.
No.
All right. So what are some let me go to this. What are some bad bills that may have or good bills that may have passed? And then are there any bills that you have your eyes on that you go, okay, we really need to have people reach out to their representatives? And last thing,
Mhm.
what groups do you suggest people follow that have that are currently following the current bills in the legislature?
There's one group called Higher Ground. Natalie Klein, Monica Wilbur, I think they do Wednesday night phone call. They have a website called, I think, Higher Ground .work, something like that. Higherground.work. They have a great list of bills there. I do look at the Libertas Institute website from time to time and see what they are pushing. They're usually right on things. They're especially right when it comes to deregulation and getting the government surveillance state to back off. Um, there is a bill, I think HB 399, which is a bill to tell the schools to back off from profiling our children. I'm very supportive of that.
Oh yeah.
I don't think our children should be profiled. We shouldn't be tracking whether or not, how they answered DEI related test questions, or whether they, think that their mom and dad are weird or something like that. So those are some bills that we favor. Also, just in this email that went out this week, Grassroots favors a yes vote on HB 88. That's House Bill 88, public assistance amendments. Basically, that would remove authority for an agency of the state to skip the verification of lawful presence of a person before receiving a public benefit. Basically, this would keep illegal aliens from being handed out welfare, right? Being given money. So I think this is a great bill. So we're very supportive of that. Let's see. That was the only one of this week's that we said we support. But let me go back a couple weeks, and let's see, back here. And just pick up from the previous week. Look and see if there's any that we support. Oh man, last week we tackled a huge problem, and that was the oh man, that was the affordable housing plan, the state of Utah. It's a horrible plan, folks.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so affordable housing, their top priority is to inventory, analyze, and develop a plan for publicly owned land that may be suitable for future housing. And although this makes a little bit of sense, whenever government gets involved in something, it gets worse. And so their second top priority, expand funding, including leveraging federal grants for an infrastructure revolving loan fund to support implementation of station area plans and new master plan developments, and which may be repaid by development. Well, this expanded funding does not seem to be proper in our view. It doesn't seem to fit the proper role of government. When did we give government the permission to plan for housing and to establish a revolving loan fund, right? That just never happened. and we shouldn't be getting our share of federal grants. we should not be feeding at the public trough, right? We should be independent of that kind of thing. It's and so I don't know. It's
I can't remember Mike McKell's exact words right now, but I told him we should not be taking, and it might have been over the COVID-19 money. I told Mike McKell we need to leave this alone, and he goes, "It would not be fiscally conservative of me to not take that money." It's like, what? So okay, I don't have a problem with the government getting involved. In fact, so here's something that I would love to see Utah County do. Utah County, it is time to do this. We need to get on one solid grid, county grid system, one address system for the entire county. It's time for us to do that. You know, it didn't make sense maybe 20 years ago when you couldn't tell when you were going from Alpine to Highland, and you couldn't tell then when you were going to American Fork or to Pleasant Grove. Now I cannot tell when I'm leaving one city and going to the next. And let alone Provo Orem. So I think it's time. That is one thing that I do think the government, I'd like to see the Utah County government do. But and you may, I'd like to see if you disagree with me on that. We got to find some level of disagreement. And then, but it also makes sense for the government to the county governments to say, okay, this is where we need to have our roads going through, and plan out some roads. I do think that makes sense to have over time. But as far as, you're right, getting involved in the loan business, here's the other thing that really bothers me now with the building that's going on locally is every single tract of land that's being built, and there's more than like 30 homes, it's got an HOA. The cities love this. The cities love it because they can have, the heavy hand of neighbors going after one another and making them do it. The problem is these HOAs get very expensive 20 years down the road. The cost of the HOA might be as much as your mortgage payment. So I've got real issues with that as well. So they call it affordable housing, yet all of them have HOAs, and I'm like, this is bad. This is bad. Lack of freedom. Your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's HOA fees are horrendous. I know my daughter pays I think $400 a month for HOA fee, and her rent is more like about $1,500, maybe 16, and so that's a fourth of the size of her mortgage payment is the size of the HOA payment. So it is horrendous. And you're right. I think that's a way for the counties to
county and city
to control what goes on in neighborhoods within their jurisdiction without without being perceived as the bad guy. So, but as far as one single address system for the whole county, I think we do that in American Fork and Highland. I mean, our address is like 11,000 north. so we're already on the plan, John. You got to get with it. You got to tell Springville to get with it.
I got to tell Salem, Springville, and Payson and all of Utah, Southern Utah County, they need to do it. Trust me, I'm telling them. I'm saying it. It's folks, it's time for this to happen.
Well, actually though, I worry a little bit about that though. I mean, Payson would have something like 320,000 south.
It's not that far south. Sorry, it's not that far south.
That's not going to happen, man.
It's like it actually. So it'd be like 130th or something like that.
Oh, is that all? Yeah. So what about Goshen and Salem?
So Salem would not even be that far south. So
okay, you're right.
But Goshen. Yeah, maybe we let Goshen be out on its own because that's you definitely know that you've left there's a little bit of difference.
I'll have you know, John, that I went to the Goshen City Parade in the summer of 2007 to distribute Ron Paul palm cards to all the parade goers. And that was a fun parade. It was about 10 floats long. And you could see the whole parade. They came down maybe 100 yards down the street, and there were children in the parade riding bicycles. And if you wanted to be in the parade, you just stood up and started walking along with the parade. It was great.
Okay, so let's go. What other bills do you think we need? What are you most concerned with that's happening up on the Hill right now? Now we've got one really good legislator. Unfortunately, we lost Phil Lyman. We did not get him in as governor, and we lost. So when I was one of the first people trying to convince Phil Lyman to run for governor, I told him the problem with this is if you don't win, we lose you as a state legislator. So what bills do we have? And then I want to go, who are the best state legislators that we have up there?
Well, the good news is we do have some good replacements in there. Yeah, although there's another bad bill, and when I say up there, Tina Cannon, our state auditor, is doing a wonderful job. She is exposing all kinds of problems in state government, and the legislature is so angry at her for exposing this that they want to cut off her funding. They want to kick her out of the Capitol building and cut off her funding. And so there is a bill to do that. And so we're kicking back really hard against that. We want to support Tina. She's doing a great job. And so right along those lines, she has been talking against PIDs, Public Infrastructure District, as a PID. Public Infrastructure District. These are insane, John. A public infrastructure district is it's a geographical area in the state where typically associated with new development, where the developer says this is the PID, and everybody that moves into that PID is going to pay the development cost of the infrastructure for this development. Now, historically, developers would go to a bank and get a loan. They would borrow money from the bank to pay for this infrastructure development of their new, development of housing development. And then as people bought the homes in that development, that would repay the developer, and the developer would repay the loan to the bank. Now, but a PID allows the developer, they don't have to borrow that money anymore, John. They just, the taxpayers in that PID pay for the development of that infrastructure.
Okay. All right. So I think I understand kind of what you're getting at. Mm-hmm. So let's say that there's like a 20 square acre area that in a 20 square acre area, they want to develop 5 square acres of that in that PID. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, the people that are coming in, they should have to pay for it. Oh, contraire, my frere, that's not all that's included. It's also, I'm going to guess you're saying it also includes the people that have already been living there and are not necessarily living right in the development that's going to happen. They have to pay for that development. Is that what I'm getting you to say?
That's probably not the norm, but that probably could happen. Yes, it doesn't. And by the way, PIDs don't have to be contiguous. You can have a PID that it's like gerrymandered. There's little spots all over the state that are in one PID. You can also develop, it doesn't have to be a housing thing. It could be a gymnasium. It could be a sports stadium. Could be funded by, in a PID. It could be, plus there's no end date, John. So even though the infrastructure gets paid off, the PID goes into perpetuity. So whoever lives in the PID continues to make payments. There's no end date. There's no sunset date on the PID as of right now. And so these PIDs.
And the developer gets the money?
He gets the money. And,
continually on. What?
Well, so that on that point, I'm not sure how that works, but I'm just saying that I'm not sure where the money goes, but I do know that the taxpayers have to keep paying month after month, year after year. And whether that, and so maybe it would go to refurbish a sewer system, or maybe to provide maybe new curtains or new floor at the sports arena or at the basketball gymnasium or something. I don't know where that goes, but what I do know is that PIDs are evil because you might be paying a mortgage, but then the taxes due to because of if you're living in a PID, they might be just as much as your mortgage payment or more. And they'll show up on your county property tax notice, and you're going to have to pay it or you're going to lose your home, John. So I don't know. It's pretty evil, and so there have been some advertisements over the past week or two against PIDs, and this is something we just need to stop. We need to stop asking taxpayers to bear the burden of development. That's the developer's job, not the taxpayer's job.
Well, I know this. Spencer Cox is not for that. Removing PIDs.
I know.
Spencer Cox is all about the PIDs. And I bet you Todd Weiler is all about that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so who are our best state legislators, would you say?
Well, if we look at the Utah Grassroots Report from last year, then we have in the House Jason Kyle. He is from, what is it, Weber County, maybe? I think so. Jason Kyle, he received the top score in the Utah House. And then came Kristen Chevrier, who's my rep, Mike Peterson of Cache County, Jake Sawyer of Weber, Trevor Lee, Matt McPherson, Tiara Oxier, Jill Colford, Nicolene Peck, and Mark Strong. So how many people is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are the top 10 out of the 75 House reps in the state of Utah. Now in the Senate, Heidi Baldery, again, she gets the very top score every year, year in and year out. Heidi Baldery is the top score getter in the Senate. And then came John Johnson and Dan McKay, 3 of the 29.
Dan McKay?
He votes right most of the time. It's just that he votes wrong on some of the most sensitive lightning rod issues in the state, but most of the time he votes right.
Well,
it's kind of like Senator Kurt Bramble did. Kurt always voted pro-life, but his party politics was not all that I wanted it to be. He voted wrong on a lot of stuff, but he had pretty good, because he was pro-life and he stayed in there. And so Dan McKay just makes sure he votes right on most of the stuff, but wrong on maybe a few things.
Well, he loves to throw people out of Senate hearings, and he loves to bring in commie flags.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Let's do this. We're probably wrapping up here a little before 6. Let me ask you this. What would you like our listeners, if you could get our listeners to take actions on 2 things, what would you have them take action on here before the end of the legislative session?
House Bill 260. I would want them to call their senator and insist that they vote this thing down.
And what is it?
Okay, this is the unauthorized practice of law amendments. It passed the House already, 62-4, way back in February. It's sitting in the Senate Rules Committee right now. But the practice of law, right, this is very interesting. It's defined as, quote, representing the interests of another person by informing, counseling, advising, assisting, advocating for, or drafting documents for that person through applying the law and associated legal principles to that person's facts and circumstances. Now, John, if you were in court, if you were being prosecuted for some reason, or maybe you started a lawsuit, and you wanted to talk to me about maybe something, maybe what you ought to do in your suit or in your defense, and I gave you advice, I could be accused of practicing law, John, because I counseled you, I advised you, I helped you, right? Because we're buddies, we're friends, and I would do that for you. And so, but according to this definition, this practice of law definition, I could go to this is a third what do they call that? A Class C misdemeanor, and the second infraction is I'm a felon. Now I am a felon if I do that twice in a row. If I am unauthorized practicing law without a law license, third degree felony, up to 5 years imprisonment, a fine of up to $5,000 on the second offense, right? The first offense is a Class A misdemeanor.
And this has already passed the House?
Yeah.
Oh, it'll pass the Senate with flying colors.
Yeah, that's my
They're a bunch of
fear.
attorneys.
Yeah. They love this.
So you can't have. So what this doesn't allow you to do is advise your children. You know, how many children go to their parents, especially young adults, go to their parents, hey, I've got this situation. Well, hey, this is what I think you should do. That puts just about everybody in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
And it will, I guarantee you, John, it will be prosecuted selectively. So they're not going to go looking for people to prosecute, but they're going to pick off people like Tracy Halverson, who is filed a big lawsuit against Cox and Henderson and others, and say that she is not a licensed attorney, and therefore she is guilty of the unauthorized practice of law because she doesn't have a license to practice law in the state of Utah. They're going to go after her, and I don't want that. Another provision of this bill, John, is that if I represent you in court and you lose over $1,000 worth of property, or you lose a substantive right, then that's another reason why I can be guilty of this unauthorized practice of law. Well, I would like to ask you the question: do you think that a licensed attorney would be subject to the same penalty if a licensed attorney gave advice or represented somebody in a way that person lost more than $1,000 or lost a substantive right? What do you think?
Of course not.
Of course not. And so this is unequal treatment before the law. This is unequal treatment. We are practicing, and we were treating a licensed attorney differently than a common person like me. And that is not right. That's unconstitutional. It's not fair. It's immoral. And yet this is what's in this bill as HB 260.
Okay. All right. Well, I know Mike McKell's not going to listen to me on that one.
Of course not. He's not going to listen to me either. But, the fact that this is still bottled up in the Senate Rules Committee is encouraging. And if we get enough people banging down the doors of their senators, speaking figuratively, in other words, call, text, email your senator and tell them not to support 260, HB 260, that would be a big help.
Well, I'm trying to decide if I call him. So Mike McKell is, as I shared before, is my state senator, and I'm trying to decide whether I give him a call on this one or not. Sometimes, folks, I'm going to tell you, don't be afraid to call your state senators and state legislators, because when I call mine, they have almost always pick up, or they will call me back soon. I'm never a jerk. I always disagree agreeably, and I tell them what I think and why I think they should vote. and that's the best way to do it. But also strategically, I go, there's no way that I'm changing his mind on something. I It's also not necessarily probably good for me to make that call. All right. Any other bills you think that are worth us taking action on?
Yeah, let me give one more, John, and that is House Concurrent Resolution 6. So that's HCR 6, House Concurrent Resolution. This is the one that supports the Utah Housing Strategic Plan that we talked about a little bit earlier. And it's a horrible plan, and it's not the proper role of government to be planning our housing. Leave that up to the local. Leave that up to your local community. Don't. We should not allow the state to dictate to the local communities how they must structure their community. Leave that up to the locals. That's government. The closer it is to the person, the better it is, and so get that's why I always encourage people to get involved in their city council, in their planning commission meetings, in their school board meetings and stuff, because you have more influence at the local level than you do anywhere else. So that's HCR 6. Encourage your senators to vote against that resolution HCR 6. So those are the two big no's, John, the HB 260 and HCR 6.
All right. Well, tell our audience how they can find out about the Utah Grassroots, how they can get this newsletter, and how they can find out about the Highland Meeting Group.
Thank you, John. UtahGrassroots.org is the website, UtahGrassroots.org. And you can go on there, you can see all the past reports, and then we have the names of the board members. I am on the board of that organization, and we have people all over the state, from the bottom of the state to the top of the state, on the board of that organization. Don Guyman, Steve Stromness from Carbon County, Don Guyman's from Davis County, Peter Cannon, I think is Davis, Travis Siegmiller from Washington County, me from Utah County. So they're all scattered all across the state, and we'd love more people. And people who listen to your show, John, probably are the kind of people, the kind of thinkers that we would love to have join us at Utah Grassroots. What would you be doing? Well, you'd be evaluating legislation, reading bills. Not everybody likes to do that. It takes maybe kind of a special character to do that, maybe. I don't know. A weirdo, a geek, maybe.
Special character.
There you go.
An intelligent-minded special character. Not special as in their mom told them they were special riding the short bus like myself.
That's right. We'd love to have your help. And so that would be awesome. If you wanted to join us, just contact us through utahgrassroots.org. Now, if you want to come to a Highland meeting, we hold those meetings, like I said, on the first Friday of each month. Just come join us. We meet at the Highland Community Center, 7 o'clock on the first Friday of each month. And or just email me, and I'll add you to our email list. My email address is lowellcallnelson@gmail.com. Lowell is spelled with 6 characters, Lowell. Call is my middle name, like call me for supper, CALL. Nelson is 6 characters, NELSON, @gmail.com. John?
And then last question. What are you doing for this month's or March's Highland Meeting Group?
Right. We have coming. Kristen has arranged this one, so I'm not really up to speed on it as like the way she is, but I believe it has something to do, John, with men being men, okay, and not being effeminate. In other words, don't back down. Have courage, and it also, I think, deals with men who are struggling with porn, because that lessens a man's courage, right? If you are involved with that, you probably are not very courageous. You don't have the self-discipline to be strong, right? And so anyway, it's something along those lines. I wish I could better describe what it is. But Kristen has arranged, she's got a couple really good, talented, knowledgeable speakers coming. It should be very interesting. And the emails on this meeting will be going out soon.
Okay. All right. Well, hold on for just a minute. I'm going to talk to you offline. So, folks, this has been Talk with Jon here on kmmu.org. Please go to our website, kmmu.org, Main Street Media, Utah, and you can go to our channels on X, YouTube, and Rumble. And please like and subscribe our channel, because what it does is it gets this out to more people and they have the opportunity to see it. So I want to say thank you to you all for tuning in today. I want to say thank you to our guests, both Michael Letts as well as Lowell Nelson, joining us. Lowell, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you being here, folks. I appreciate you tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Take care. This has been